The Jordan Show on YouTube.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You know what time it is. Time for another deep dive.
Back into the archives.
You got it. You know, we've spent the last 2 episodes talking about the founders of HP.
Yeah.
Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard.
Absolutely.
Those guys, right?
Yeah.
And we got to see how they built HP from, that Palo Alto garage
Humble beginnings.
into this global powerhouse. But today, we're going beyond the founders.
Ooh.
We're going to look at the people who continued their legacy, the people who took the reins of research and development.
Oh, yeah.
And, made sure that HP stayed on the cutting edge. So what do you think? Where do we even start? I mean, HP has had such a long history of innovation, so many amazing products. Where do we even begin?
I think, any conversation about HP innovation has to begin with HP Labs.
Yep.
Right? That was established in 1966.
Okay.
And it still is today their central hub for research and development.
Yes.
Some really groundbreaking ideas were born there.
Oh, I bet. So HP Labs, it's like the company's think tank, right?
Yeah, it's a think tank.
Yeah.
It's a playground for brilliant minds.
I like that.
It's where they get to play with the future.
Yeah. So who was in charge of this playground? Who are the people steering those big ideas?
Well, the first director of HP Labs was a guy named Barney Oliver.
Oh.
Really a true pioneer.
Hmm?
He led the labs from 1966 to 1981.
Wow.
And he guided early innovations in some of HP's really core areas. Test and measurement equipment, computing systems, electronic instrumentation.
I'm guessing those were pretty big deals back then, right?
Oh yeah, you gotta think in the 60s and 70s, the tech world was a very different place.
Yeah.
Like accurate and reliable test and measurement equipment. That was crucial for everything,
Yeah.
from scientific research to manufacturing.
Right.
Like HP, under Oliver's leadership, they became the source for that. And when it comes to those early computing systems, they might seem pretty primitive now, but they were laying the groundwork for the PC revolution, which was just around the corner.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Barney Oliver's legacy. Setting the stage for HP's eventual tech dominance. Who came after him? Who picked up that torch?
So in the mid-1980s, the role went to Joel Birnbaum.
Okay.
And this is a really interesting time because he came from IBM Research.
No, IBM.
Which at the time was kind of the king of computing.
Right,
And-
yeah, they were the big guys.
Right. So HP, they poached a top researcher from their biggest competitor. That's a power move.
That's a statement, yeah. So what did Birnbaum bring to HP?
So he brought, this deep understanding of computer systems.
Right.
And he was really focused on something called precision architecture.
Precision architecture.
It was about making computer systems more efficient, getting more performance out of them. You can kind of think of it as like trying to get a car to go further and faster on the same tank of gas.
Right, optimizing the
I
resources.
think exactly. And this really paved the way for the powerful, efficient machines that we all, use and rely on today.
I see. So first you have Oliver building that foundation, then Birnbaum comes in, ramps up the computing power. What happens next? How does HP Labs continue to evolve?
Well, technology was evolving at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
So HP needed someone who could see the future, and prepare for it.
Right.
So that person was Dick Lampman.
Right.
He became director in 1999.
All right.
And his time was all about looking ahead and pushing into new areas.
Ooh, what kind of future was HP Labs looking at back then?
So Lampman really focused on a lot of areas that, are probably very familiar to us now. Cloud computing, digital imaging, networking. I mean, these are basically the building blocks of the connected world that we live in today.
Right. Yeah.
But remember, this was the late 90s.
Right.
The internet was still relatively new.
Very new.
The idea of, storing your photos in the cloud?
Right.
That was pretty wild. Lampman saw these trends early on, and he made sure that HP Labs was ready.
Right. So cloud computing, digital photos everywhere. Lampman was preparing HP for the internet age.
Exactly.
Right.
What came after that?
So after Lampman, we have Prith Banerjee.
Okay.
He became director in 2007.
Right.
And he really doubled down on some of these trends. cloud computing, information analytics, because you got to remember, all these digital photos, all this online activity, it's generating tons of data.
Right.
And he also started focusing on sustainability, which was becoming a bigger and bigger concern.
Right, yeah. So a focus on these larger trends that were shaping the world. How did Banerjee's approach to leading HP Labs differ from his predecessors?
So Banerjee had this idea. He wanted to focus on fewer but larger research projects. He wanted to really go all in on ideas that had the potential to be game changers.
Okay.
Not just kind of, tinkering around the edges.
I see. So it's like focus your energy on a few key innovations instead of spreading yourself too thin.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to see how each of these directors built on what came before them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the HP Labs directors, right?
No.
You mentioned the chief technology officers, the CTOs.
Yes.
How did they fit into the picture?
So the CTOs, they had a slightly different role.
Okay.
They were more focused on the big picture, on bridging that gap between the really cutting edge research that was happening at HP Labs and the practical realities of the market. They were asking, how do we turn these incredible discoveries into products that people will actually buy and use?
Right, yeah, because you can have the most amazing technology in the world, but if nobody wants to buy it,
It's useless.
it's useless.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CTOs were the ones making those big strategic decisions about where to invest, what to develop.
Right.
Tell me more about them.
So one of the most influential CTOs at HP was Shane Robison.
Yep.
He was the Chief Strategy and Technology Officer from 2002 to 2011.
Right.
And Robison, he wasn't an engineer in the traditional sense, but he had this amazing ability to really grasp the business potential of technology.
Right. So what did that look like in practice? What were some of Robison's key moves?
Well, he was heavily involved in mergers and acquisitions. So basically HP buying other companies.
Right.
He was always on the lookout for companies that had the technology, the talent, that could really give HP an edge. And he was also responsible for setting the overall research priorities for the entire company.
Right. So he was kind of like a chess master, making these strategic moves to make sure HP stayed ahead.
Absolutely.
Who came after Robison?
So in 2012, Martin Fink took over as CTO.
Okay.
And he was also appointed director of HP Labs.
Wow, talk about wearing two hats.
Yeah, definitely. So Fink, he was all about radical innovation. He spearheaded this program called The Machine.
The Machine.
The Machine.
Right.
And it was this incredibly ambitious attempt to basically rethink, from the ground up, how computers are built.
Wow. The Machine, that sounds pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
Can you break that down for me a little bit? What was so radical about it?
So the computers that we use today are all based on a design that's been around for decades.
Right. Yeah.
So the Machine was basically throwing out the old playbook and saying, okay, let's start fresh. Let's look for completely new ways to process information, store information.
Yeah.
It was a really bold bet on the future of computing.
I see. So it's like not just improving existing technology, but completely reimagining it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Fink was really focused on getting the research out of the lab and into actual HP products.
Yeah.
He wanted to close that gap.
That makes sense. It's one thing to have brilliant ideas, right? It's another to actually turn those ideas into something that people can use.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we've talked about these big picture CTOs, but you also mentioned CTOs within like specific business units.
Yeah.
Like what was their role?
Right. So HP, you got to remember, was this huge company with many different product lines.
Right.
And each of those areas, needed its own technological leadership.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you give us an example?
Yeah, so a good example is Phil McKinney.
Okay.
He was the CTO for HP's Personal Systems Group until 2012.
Right.
So we're talking laptops, desktops, tablets, all the devices that people were using every day.
Yeah.
And McKinney's job was to make sure that HP was pushing the boundaries in those areas.
Right. And if you think back to that time, things were changing so fast.
Oh,
right?
incredibly fast.
Like every year, there were new advancements in processors, displays, battery life.
Yeah, it was a constant race.
Yeah.
To stay ahead.
Yeah, it must have been exciting, but also a little bit overwhelming.
I bet.
Yeah. So we've got this whole ecosystem of leaders, right?
Yeah.
From the directors at HP Labs to the CTOs, shaping strategy, driving innovation within these specific product lines. It's really remarkable to see how it all fits together.
Yeah, and it all goes back to that culture of innovation that Hewlett and Packard established. It wasn't just about one or two brilliant minds.
Right.
It was about creating a system where innovation could thrive at every level.
That's a great point. HP's success wasn't just about having brilliant individuals. It was about fostering a culture where those individuals could do their best work.
Yeah.
Bring those groundbreaking ideas to life.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up our look at the people of HP, what do you think? Like, what are some of the key lessons that we can take away from their story?
I think, for me, the big takeaway is that, innovation is not just a solo sport. It's a team effort.
Yeah.
You need to have the right people, the right culture, the right processes.
And the right leadership.
And the right leadership to really make it happen.
Yeah, and I think HP's story also shows us that innovation isn't a one-time event.
Right.
It's a continuous process.
But a journey.
Yeah, a journey. You have to keep pushing the boundaries, keep experimenting, keep taking risks.
Absolutely.
And it makes you think, right? Like, considering how fast technology is moving now with AI, quantum computing, all this stuff, what lessons can future tech leaders learn from HP's journey?
I think that's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah, how do you build an organization that can not just keep up with the pace of change, but actually anticipate it and shape the future? So for everyone listening out there, think about that.
Yeah, think about that.
And maybe you'll be the one leading the next wave of groundbreaking technology.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the people of HP.
See you next time.
See you next time.